Good evening, everybody, and welcome to, what's the show called?
What was I thinking?
What was I thinking, with me, Charlie Harrison, and my sister from another Mr. A.D. McQueen up there in the corner, and we are joined by the wonderful Jonathan Hearne this week, who is up there in that corner. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hi, welcome to the show. So today on the show, we're talking about strangers. And would you say you're any good with strangers, Jonathan?
I'm all right with strangers. Yeah, I think I'm probably better with strangers than it tapers off the longer I know you.
Yes.
I need a constant kind of stream of strangers just to keep the self-esteem just above
You're
average.
saying that it's great meeting you, and then a sort of series of disappointments afterwards,
which will be witnessed in this show.
Brilliant. We can't wait.
Yeah.
Nadine, how are you?
I'm very good at strangers. I really enjoy stranger interaction. I think I have a policy. I used to be really shy when I was a teenager, and I have a policy now where I just try to be really nice to people and try to make people laugh all the time. And I have to say, I've gotten pretty good at it. But I was thinking that I'm a bit too good with strangers, and maybe I need to focus on some of my friends. Like, I get such a buzz out of chatting to strangers, then I don't need to call, like, my best friend from primary school. Why would I bother with Siobhan? When I get mood in the supermarket for an hour.
Exactly. And you've never let my mood down yet. If you talk to a stranger, there's no history of violence or regret or disappointment. No, never.
Yeah,
they're just
I did
there.
hit on once in year 3, but it's true. It's the stranger is such potential in that person. Absolutely. And especially because it's starting at such a low base. You're in a shop, you're not expecting anything from each other, and then you make a little wry comment like, "Oh, I'm probably not really putting you in a much higher tax bracket with my purchase there," and they're not expecting it, and they're delighted. So
that's a nice one. It sounds like you go for sort of wry, little witty asides. Have you got any tips, sort of, if people out there are wanting to talk to strangers, perhaps strike up conversations? What would be your kind of tip from the top?
The tip from the top is you just have to be courteous and kind. So you don't have to be funny, but it can help. But you can just make the most bland statement. But if you do it with a smile, you can say something like, "Great day for the ducks."
Oh, you know what? Someone did actually say that to me the other day.
Did they?
And it was lovely. Well, it was lovely after I worked out what they'd said. There was a moment of, what?
Yeah.
And then I understood, yeah.
Oh, I hate those moments. What?
Yeah, it's hard because I think I interact a lot with old people because they really love it and they haven't got barriers up. They're like children. So children and old people are my favorites to interact with. But the one problem is with old people are deaf. So thank you, Colin, for noticing the pictures. I've done my best. Wow, that has definitely got some kind of OCD going on there. So yeah, strangers, old people. So you end up saying something like, sure, great day for the ducks. And you throw away a comment and they go, what? And you're there, great day for the ducks. And then they go, what? And then eventually 4 goes later, you're just somebody shouting at a stranger in the street going, it's a fucking great day for the ducks!
Which sounds like a
sport thinks you're a psycho.
Well, we're going to see how good you are with strangers, rather than kind of you talking about how good you are with strangers. We're actually going to have what I'm going to call on this show a connection competition today, which is essentially I'm going to bring a stranger onto the show. This is someone I know, someone that you guys haven't met, He's coming on. He's actually a friend of mine, and he's actually very good at talking to strangers. I actually met him in the London Dungeon, and he spoke to me as a stranger. Not like that sounds like a sex club, like the actual London Dungeon, the tourist attraction, which is a story for another time. But we're going to bring him on a little bit later. And what's going to happen is, unbeknownst to him, you guys are going to be asking him some questions, asking how good he is with strangers, the same sort of questions, top tips for strangers, that kind of thing. But at the same time, underneath it all, you're going to really try and connect with him. At the end, I'm going to ask him, out of 10, who he feels most connected to. So he's going to give you both a rating out of 10. And you guys, the winner will be the person who's charmed him the most.
Wonderful.
Brilliant. Okay.
I think a good way to interact with a stranger is the moment where you ask each other your names. I think that's a key with pure stranger. You've already told us this gentleman's name.
Okay.
So I can't do that. You'll have to think of something else.
Are you saying that one of your top tips for talking to strangers, your best questions is, what is your name?
What is your name? Yes.
Because I'm not sure I think you can do better than that.
Picture it though. If you're at a bus stop or something, you pick up a conversation with someone. There's been no reason to exchange names at this point, and then it gets to it's a turning point when one of you goes, "What's your name, by the way?"
Yeah.
Oh,
I agree.
Take it up a notch.
Little handshake, a smirk, smirk shake.
Smirk
shake.
Yeah. The old smirk.
Another top tip I have is you don't have to really say anything, but sometimes just a glance is enough. Like the glance of empathy. I think a good place to meet strangers are in public transport. And when public transport is late and it's like, excuse me, but the train is now delayed by 10 minutes. And that collective sigh goes up, and you just catch somebody's eye. And then you suddenly feel better because there's somebody empathizing with the annoyance. So
and if you're John, you then go, what is your name?
That's what I say to everyone.
The girl goes, does it matter? And then you just make passionate love on the platform. Yeah.
I miss those days.
I've got a top tip for talking to a stranger that was given to me by a guy I used to live with, Oliver Beer, real name, not joke name. Oliver Beer is his name currently. But this is exclusively if you are in I suppose anywhere you're sat together that's moist, which will make sense, like a sauna or a steam room or something like that. So what you do, maybe it could be a bench, maybe a sort of somewhere that would be squeaky. And what you do is you make you have to be able to make a noise with your body that sounds like a fart, but it isn't a fart. Mm-hmm. So like in his example, because it was in a steam room that we used to go to, so he would go like that, make a sort of squeaky noise, and then he would say to the person in the steam room, "Oh, that was actually my leg." Like, so he would manipulate an embarrassing fart noise to then be able to break the silence and be like, "Oh, that was my leg, I promise."
Amazing.
This is like a breaking the ice, breaking the wind sort of thing.
Well, yeah, it's sort of manipulating in a slightly embarrassing situation to be like, "Oh, we've got to talk now."
Yeah, it is very good.
Psychopathic.
And did you do that for people he fancied or just anyone he wanted to chat to?
He did it mainly. I think he mostly wanted to chat to anyone in there because it was nice. But I was quite impressed when he told me that.
Do you know what that makes me think of? Because I was thinking that you could sort of do that with anything, couldn't you? And I was thinking first thing that went into my head was dropping something. But then so you see that in the movies.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't you meet someone, Nadine, by dropping something?
Did I what?
Didn't you drop didn't you meet someone outside Facebook by dropping something?
Oh yeah, no, my walking stick. Yeah, I did actually. Yes. Do you know what? When I had a walking stick for about 6 months, and the amount of I needed to knock back the penis with the walking stick. Men, it was a great talking point. Even though I was an invalid at the time, like, I'm quite posh, so they probably assumed it was a skiing incident. And people would come up to me, chat to me all the time. Like, it was great. Amazing. It was like Tinder on a stick.
Yeah.
So my advice is get some kind of handicap and flaunt it.
Flaunt it. If you got it, flaunt it. If you haven't, get it and then flaunt it.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring Ross on. So you guys ready to really? Are you in good charm mode?
Yes. Okay.
You get into your most charming selves, as you know, and we're going to bring him on. And you guys have got some questions for him. That's lovely smile there, Jonathan. Thanks for bringing that onto the show.
Lantern on drugs. It's amazing.
And actually, you know, to his credit, like Ross has probably got some great stories, which he's going to share about talking to strangers, and hopefully we can learn a lot from him. So Ross, where are you? Let's see if we can bring him onto the show.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Ross. Can we?
Oh dear, we can't hear you, Ross.
Yeah, my mic is
You can.
muted. Oh,
there you go.
can we hear? Are we back in the game? Excellent.
Back in the game.
Yeah.
What?
So
Right
Jonathan
now, lovely
has
people.
Out of the game.
Yes. A question. Hello, Ross. How are you?
Hey, Jonathan. I'm really good, thanks, buddy.
Very nice earphones,
Cool.
by the way,
Thanks.
and
thanks.
and a lovely hoodie.
Yes, I thought I'd dress up for the occasion.
Yeah, that's what I've done. The same thing. I've gone for a middle-aged shirt. What can you give us some tips for talking to strangers?
Top tips for
What's
talking to strangers. Well, your basics. You've got to have good eye contact. That always helps. Open body language, a genuine smile. That's always a good one. And people generally want a mixture of either attention or approval. So you use your attention and put it on them, and what is it about them? Where have they come from? What are they doing now? Where are they going next? You've got all these factors to play with because people are all like puzzles and everybody's got a little to unlock them.
Yeah, that's
very well put. That you've explained that really well. You get your attention and you put it on them. So you have a certain amount of power which you grant them by you giving your attention, but it's actually symbiotic. And then it's true, everybody's a little puzzle. So what were they doing? What are they doing now? And what are they going to do? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well explained. I'm going to do that to the next person I meet in the supermarket.
Yeah, well,
although they'll probably be saying, "I'm
explained.
going to take away from you."
That makes complete sense. Am I asking another question, Charlie?
Yeah, and then
I am. Can you give us an example of a good interaction you've had?
A good interaction. Very recently, I was at National Chicken Day in Portugal, because that's what they have in Portugal, National Chicken Day. And we because in this corona lockdown, Portugal has been pretty good with it, and we are now allowed to be in public, in eating spaces with each other. And on National Chicken Day, I was walking up to get some chicken, and this Irish fella was next to me. I was like, "All right, mate, where are you from?" He said, "Ireland." I was like, "Great." And then I shared an experience about when I went to Ireland to research ancient goddesses, because that's my jam. And it was near where he lived. We got into conversation, and then I used to be a tour guide before, when there was an option to go around places in London. But then I was talking about my experiences and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, well, I've got an eco lodge here, and I'm looking for someone to do more tours." So now I've managed to get a job out of talking to someone 2 weeks ago, because I'm in Portugal right now, and I'm not a very good farmer. I'm really not the best farmer. So this has been a fantastic opportunity for me to do something that, I believe in and what I want to work on right now. So that was like a pretty wholesome one from recently, yeah. And that was just from putting attention on someone, asking them where they're from, and just finding some common ground. Yeah.
That sounds
good.
great.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. The last thing that happened to me like that, I didn't get a job out of it, but I was in the airport, and I had a big 15 kg bag that I had to put into the hold, and I put it up on the weighing scales. I was just having a bit of banter with the air steward guy, the Ryanair, and then he asked me to scan my boarding pass, and I'd forgotten to pre-book my bag, and I was like, what? But previous to that, we'd been chatting away, and he seemed like a bit of crack. So he said to me, "What's it like over in England?" And I said, still 2 meters separation between people, like, but you can use your common sense. Like, I mean, it's not like I'm going to be gobbling into other people's mouths as much as I'd like to be, right? It's a bit of a fucking out there thing to say, but he burst his whole laughing. He just thought it was hilarious. And then when the moment came and I didn't go through, and he was like, 44 quid, love, sorry. And I just went, and he goes, no, you're grand. I'll pretend it's 10k. And that was it. No. So he saved me €44 just because you never know who you're being sound to. I think it's so important.
He broke the rules.
Yeah, he broke the rules for me.
What's his name?
Yeah. So I have another question for you, Ross. Have your interactions with strangers ever gone wrong?
Yeah, many times. I mean, I'm very well practiced in talking to strangers. As to whether it goes good or bad is a whole another story. When I used to be a rave promoter, I used to give out flyers at the end of raves, which was great, because you constantly got to practice that art of talking to people. And we cracked it early that women really like attention about the clothes that they're wearing. And any woman that's wearing fluffy boots wants attention on their fluffy boots. So, excuse me, love, can I stroke your boots? Oh, yeah, go on then, stroking the boots. So I stroked this lady's boots outside the club. And then at the time I was bootlegging a few fags. So I was like, do you want to buy some fags? And she's like, yeah, go on then. Next thing you know, this geezer pulls her out the way and squares up to try and crack me in the face. I just sort of got back to what I was doing. And then they walked off. I just sort of carried on, shook it off. And he comes back and he's like, oh, I'm really sorry, mate. I thought you said, can I stroke your boobs? Yeah, but it was all right. It worked out okay. Yeah.
And you were like, that's what I said. Yeah. Oh my God. The good old days when sexual harassment was more acceptable. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, is it sexual harassment?
No.
It's just attention, surely.
It's just attention. Yeah, no, it wasn't sexual harassment at all. And that's the thing. Did you ever do charity, street charity working?
I was more a door-to-door kind of person. These street ones, they're a little bit, they're just not hardcore enough. I used to knock on people's door and, just say, don't worry, nothing too serious. We're doing a little bit of work in the area and everyone's been fantastic.
That's a good one.
And knocking on, everybody has been great, and they've just been chipping in something really small and helping out for as many weeks as they can, which was going really well until I went to Sittingbourne, which is a bit of a dump. Knocked on a door, and then I thought it was like a porch door that you go through to the next door. Went into the next door, and all of a sudden I was face to face with a smackhead and a baseball bat. I'm assuming he was a smackhead. He just didn't have any teeth or anything. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he really enjoyed heroin. But what I did know at that point, I knew that I had to get out of what was definitely his actual property. And I turned around and got out of there quickly.
Oh, my God.
Did he sign up for the direct debit?
No, he wasn't one for the charity, I don't think, Jonathan.
And it turns out the charity was collecting for people with heroin addiction.
Right.
Yeah, give him the pot of money and.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It all comes full circle. Yeah, no, I've had a few dodgy enough when you're really tired. I remember being in a restaurant and the waiter said to me, or the guy at the door or something leaving said to me, thanks very much. And I just said, bye, I love you. Like with my mom or a boyfriend that I didn't really like that much. And I could see him being really shocked. Like he thought that was the best stranger interaction he'd ever had. Like he's telling somebody on another podcast, oh my God, there was this great woman and she liked me so much that she was in love with me by end of meal. Oh, really, I didn't like her. It's a good anecdote.
That brings us nicely to our next question for you, Ross, as the stranger expert. The fundamental philosophical question is, because this podcast is, of course, about love and relationships. Do you think you can love a stranger?
Do I think I can love a stranger?
Have you ever fallen in love with someone?
Let's get philosophical with it. Can you love a stranger? You can be loving to a stranger as long as you love yourself. I think that's where it all comes from. You must love yourself, or you can love other people. But if you're saying, can you be like, oh my God, I've seen that person across the room and I'm going to put all my hopes and dreams onto their shoulder from this one interaction. I don't know, maybe you should go to Codependence Anonymous and have a look at what that is. Because I'm not sure. What do you reckon?
What do you guys think? Jonathan, do you think you can love a stranger?
Well, it seems like it's quite a tricky concept, really. I mean, I like Helen Mirren, and I don't know her. But, I mean, she's not.
Men are obsessed with Helen Mirren. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's. But that's. I mean, is that a stranger? Someone who's famous? You sort of know for years? Probably not. That's probably not what you're asking, is it?
I was sat outside on a bench off of old people's home a couple of weeks ago. I was a bit down about something, and an old lady with the most beautiful blue eyes I've ever seen in my life and bright white hair came and sat down, and she said, "You look sad." And then I said, "I am." And we had a lovely conversation. And then she started trying to cheer me up about telling about me about all her boyfriends that she has, and telling me about how she always talks to strangers. She was like me in the future, because I love talking to strangers, right? She said, "I always say hello if someone walked past." And she went, "Hello?" I don't know him. I always say hello. And I this is going to sound so weird and made up, but literally there was a stone on the floor that said hello on it. Someone had written hello on it. I picked it up and I gave it to her, and she's like, "That's lovely. I'm going to stick it on my door." And I have to say that I felt love in that moment. And I felt love to her, like I loved her, you know. But maybe I just I've just never experienced real love before, because that's when I feel love. Like, but like old ladies that I'm handing a stone to. I mean, what's the other stuff like? I don't know.
I think you can't. I think I was raised Catholic. Well, not so much raised as pushed down Catholic. One of the big ones is love thy neighbor, love strangers, love mankind. And I couldn't really figure out how my mother would say this, but yet she would bitch about her neighbor constantly. So there is that thing of having to love the person that you don't know in Catholicism. And I think I had a similar enough experience where I was going to a wedding with this guy, and he was really very particular about how I dressed and, you know, certain things. And he bought me this dress for the wedding, very expensive Karen Millen one, and I was so nervous to get the whole outfit right, and I was running around the shops and I was stressed and I was crying. And then I got into Marks and Spencer's and I was like, "I need just a plain white cardigan. Is that too much to ask? A plain cardigan?" And she was like, "Why do you need a cardigan?" And I said, "Because my boyfriend wants me to buy a plain white cardigan." And she was like, "Okay, sit down. First of all, we're going to find you the cardigan. You're going to go to that wedding, and then you're going to break up with that fella. Do you hear me?" And it was like something out of a romantic comedy. And then she gets her friend to come over, and they're just giving me these plain white cardigans. I'm like, Jesus Christ, there were so many of the fucking plain white cardigans. Of course there was. It was Marks and Spencer's. And it was a beautiful moment. Yeah. And you know, relationships come and go. I don't have that relationship anymore. But what do I still have? The plain white cardigan.
And it's here tonight. Ross, I've got a question for you before you leave, and it's been lovely having you on the show. I don't know if you've cottoned on to this at all, but we have been actually having a connection competition. And so Jonathan and Aideen, as two strangers that didn't know you, were both in their own way trying to connect with you as much as possible.
Yeah.
And what I want you to now think about and do is give them both a score out of 10 for how, like, as considering you've, you know, this is the first time you sort of met with them and connected with them. Out of 10, what would you give Aideen and what would you give Jonathan?
Okay, what would I give out of 10?
And give the reason.
I'm going to give... I'll give the reason. Aideen, I really liked it when you put attention on what I'd done previously. You said, "Have you done charity fundraising?" So you made the effort to go in there. You weren't... I really very much appreciated that. And very warm welcome, Jonathan. You had a bit of back and forth with me. You made sure that we settled in before we started. So can I cop out and give them both 10? Is
No,
that all right?
that is the worst
All right.
answer ever. Like, that
I
is
think that was a
literally,
perfect
you
answer, Ross.
disappoint me
That's such a good
so
answer.
much.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
start again and be interesting this time.
oh God, be interesting. It's so hard. Yeah, so I thought that Jonathan can have an 8.5, and because I'd probably prefer to sleep with Aisling than Jonathan, I'm going to give
You
Aisling
just
9.
got her name wrong, Ross.
Well, there you go.
Her name's
We're probably not going to have sex.
It's okay.
Aisling.
People call me Aisling. My neighbour calls me Aisling, and he's like one of Ireland's top barristers, but he can't get my name right. Fuck's sake.
Because you are really Irish, and Aisling's like a really Irish name.
Yeah.
I-
No, thank
So
you.
I'm going to put myself down lower than both of your scores due to that fact on its own.
I'll give you 10.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.
The power of the vagina.
So sorry, that was
Yeah,
just
that
a
extra half point.
eight for Jonathan and an 8.5 for AD.
They were both brilliant. These two are comedians. Comedians are normally really awkward to speak to, like really awkward. But
That's
they
true.
were both like really shining, and they put their attention on me. And I've never had such a warm welcome from comedians before. This is great.
Ah, but it's only because it was a competition. There you go. As long as you only interact people having a competition that can connect with you, you'll be all right. Thanks, Ross, for coming on the show. We're going to get on with some calls now, but it's lovely to genuinely really nice to see you, and thanks for talking to us about strangers.
Lovely to meet
Thank
you.
Ross. Lovely to meet you.
Take care, guys. See ya.
Bye.
What I did, guys, was I tried to look at him like this, so it looked like we were making eye contact. Do you see?
Yeah, that eye contact thing spanned me out because I was like, I better do it now, and it's just. Well, unless you just look down the lens, don't you? You look down
Now
the
I'm
lens.
looking at you, Jonathan.
Oh, by the way, Colin made another comment earlier.
Yeah, I saw that.
There it is. No.
And also, you are younger than John Johnson, than John Johnson. Boris Johnson. What did Margaret say?
What?
Margaret said something there. You
Yes.
smelled a rat.
Is that he smelt a rat? Like.
He means all of us together. I don't know. Margaret, can you clarify that comment, please? Margaret is great. She's always texting in.
Yeah, Margaret, please let us know what you mean by ye smelt a rat.
Yeah.
Who is ye, and why did he smelt a rat? We're going to make some phone calls now. Aideen, you're going to call someone and you're going to tell them you love them. This is a testing our hypothesis of can you love a stranger. I've given Aideen not so much a random number, but a number of someone I think might pick up the phone that I vaguely know that she can call and say I love you. We've never done this before. We're going to see if it works. So loudspeaker on, and let's hear that. And if anyone in the meantime is watching live, please give us any of your top tips of talking to strangers. Or if you want us to call anyone to tell them that we love them, anyone you want, just send a private message, Jim at Comedy Hotspot on Facebook. There you go, and give us the phone number, and we will phone them and tell them we love them.
Have we got to be quiet?
I have a feeling they're not going to pick up. If they just leave a message, hello there, how are you? I just want to say, I don't know who you are, but I feel a lot of love for humanity. And I'm stranger to stranger. I just want to say that I love you. In a platonic stranger way, not in a sexy way.
Oh, okay.
And you accept that. That's really good. You accept that.
I will accept your love.
Thank you for accepting my love. I really appreciate that. You don't know me. I'm a mere stranger, an absolute random woman. Your number was plucked from the skies. You think you know me, but you couldn't know me. I'm admiring. Do you know somebody called Charlie Harrison? We're we're doing dares. Yeah, basically we're doing a podcast about loving strangers, and Charlie just
I used to be Charlie's,
you were Charlie's lockdown wife.
yeah, you've done it for rugby, haven't you?
Oh yeah,
Big thanks for forgiveness.
I have. And look at this positive interaction. She was right to get me to ring you because you have accepted this, and this is really good. You're a yes and person. So listen,
I thought you would be good.
You know my name.
I can't remember. Sorry, I don't know
Can
your
you
name.
Can you turn her up?
Uh,
Begin with an A.
hey, I'm 18. Yeah.
There we go. We've met, you know.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh.
Listen, we better go because we have to ring more strangers for our podcast. But you should tune in. So,
Welcome to
okay. Okay.
Not a real dare.
Maybe it's not a real dare. Now we're turning this love into an argument. Oh my God. Okay. Bye bye. I still love you. Bye bye. Okay.
Get rid of
Bye.
it.
Oh, that was very
Charlie,
nice.
is this a complete stranger?
This is a number that Aidine's given me.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Phil here.
Hi there. I just wanted to call because I wanted to tell you that I love you.
It's going to be a long call.
It's going to be a long call.
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
Who do you want to call at this time? And how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just been thinking all day, like, just got this huge sense of love in me. And like, I thought it was important that you knew that you were the recipient of it. How's that make you feel?
Well, it's fantastic. But, you know, and how come? You know, why?
I think mainly it's just because you're your authentic self, and like you're just really good at being you.
And where are you right now?
I'm sat in my home office and just meditating on the love.
That's good. Well done. How free you are to say this.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to go now and get back to the meditation. But as I said, love you.
Well done, love. Well done. Fabulous.
Aideen, who the fuck was that?
Aideen, who is that?
That was well-known comedian Phil Kay.
No way. Oh, you see, you chose a comedian.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. His response.
What? Yeah. What? I missed the last thing he said.
He was just like, I don't know, like breathing really heavily, and he was like, "Where are you?" That's great. That's great. It's so great that you've thought of these things. No questions about who I was. Do you think he gets these calls a lot?
He can't. He does stuff like that to people. I think a lot. He talks to strangers more than anyone I've ever met. Like,
maybe he doesn't get them a lot, but maybe he's expecting them.
Yes, he expects them a lot. I think he was on TV a lot in the 90s, so you know well how that fucks you up. But he's one of the people who speaks to strangers the most. I've never met anyone to give more money to beggars. I left him for an hour in a pub, and he comes back and he's like, "I've got your sister a book deal." And there's this terrified-looking American couple just going, blinking, just trying to get me to get rid of him. He's wonderful.
They've got to start a publishing company like in the next few days.
Just get him out of here.
I feel like I'm so impressed these people are picking up. This is one of the advantages of lockdown. People pick up their phone. Do you want to try the third one, Aideen, the other number I gave you?
Sure, I will.
Just make sure you're holding the phone next to the microphone if you can.
I will.
Have we had any numbers?
No, any number sent in, Jim will let us know. Anyone you want us to call, Jonathan?
I mean, do people answer their... Oh, obviously people do answer their phones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the 80s when people used to just have to answer the phone.
I suppose because of lockdown, yeah. Something to do.
Lockdown, the phone is ringing, but there's nobody home. Or beside it, they're waiting for an voicemail.
Hello, this is Charlie. I can't take your call right now. If you can leave me a message, and I will get back to you. Thank you.
I just called to say I love you.
The-
I just called
Listen,
to
the
say how much I care.
No, Charlie,
I
no.
just called to say I love you. And I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. That'll do.
that'll do. That's lovely. I'm feeling a real sense of love. So that was I did this thing in London, in Euston, which is definitely not a cult, a sort of intense weekend about relationships called the Landmark Forum, if anyone's heard of it. And he was just like a random guy in my group that wouldn't remember me, so I thought it was quite a good shout, because he was sort of like a stranger. You know, you only exchange numbers to like let each other know like what the homework was or whatever, and then never speak again. I was just looking through my phone as well. I was like, this phone book is full of strangers. Like, it's all like people like, you know, you did a project with 6 years ago, because you keep the same number, you know?
Yeah. An old landlord, or even not even a landlord,
Yeah.
like somebody who went to see the house but didn't get it.
Yes, exactly. Like Aisha Stratton comes up for me a lot because it's near the A's, and it's like I don't even know if I actually went to that house viewing.
It's weird, isn't it? But you can't get rid of the numbers. It's all part of the tapestry of your life.
Oh, I get it. Streatham is in the place.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, it could be a name. That could be a name.
Could be.
God.
Could be. So we're gonna end the show with a song, Jonathan. But before we do, does anyone? Actually, before we do, me and you, Jonathan, have had an interaction with a stranger that wasn't so good.
Oh yes. Do you mean
This is on a? Yeah.
on the train?
On the train. That's right. So me and Jonathan, I really want to hear this from your perspective, because basically me and Jonathan ran into each other on a train and then proceeded to have an interaction with a stranger. This is about 4 years ago?
Something like that.
And
yeah.
I'd love just to hear the story from your perspective, because the way I remember it, my memory might serve me differently.
Okay, so here's my memory. It's an awful memory, but I'm gonna go for it. We're both walking down a train. I don't need to put this much detail in, do I? You've already covered this. We bumped into each other on a train. Were we on a train?
Yes, we were.
We were on a train. I think it must be the buffet carriage, because it has that narrow corridor, and that's the point at which we bumped into each other, and we proceeded to have a conversation. And during the conversation, there were quite a few times that strangers, were needing to get past, and we just kept moving out the way. And then a man had a go at us for being in the way. Is that the story?
I really hoped you were going to put more detail into the like interaction with the stranger than you did in the whole setup of the story. The train was long and there was a buffet carriage. The bit that the interaction with the stranger was the bit that I wanted to hear about.
Well, yeah,
Do you know what I enjoyed? The idea of having a sandwich on a Virgin train now. Oh my God, I would so fucking love that.
I know, this is actually feels like a different time, like a pre-COVID time. So what I remember, Jonathan, is we're standing there facing each other. I think the thing was, it's very embarrassing, because I think I was in first class and Jonathan wasn't. So the only place we could have met was the buffet carriage. It was the place where, you know, the upper class and the lower class can meet and interact face to face. And I think that may have been why we stood there. And I remember as people went past, we sort of had to both tiptoe in that way that made us sort of thinner to let them through. And we'd kind of get brushed up against them. And it was an older couple that walked past. And we were kind of having a conversation. And she said something like, in a very English way, yeah, we're great place to have a conversation. Like that. And she did it as she was walking in a very cowardly way, because she timed it so that she wouldn't be face to face with us when it was sort of delivered when we could react. But then her husband was behind her and her husband turned round. And I think I got into teenage schoolgirl mode and was like, oh, really? Something like,
yeah,
do you remember what I
we
said?
were both doing that. I was getting that thrill and shame
right.
of being told off as a child.
I think I gave him some attitude, and then everything, the sort of adrenaline was so high. I sort of said, "Oh yeah, is it? Oh, we didn't know. I don't know, something shit." But it's quite aggressive on my part. And then I remember turning to you, Jonathan, and we tried to carry on talking, and you were like, "Is your adrenaline really up?" And I was like, "Yeah, my heart's beating really fast, like passive aggressive adrenaline junkies, like on a train." Like
our sort of blood boiling whilst trying to have a polite conversation.
It's quite a good way to get a hit, because it felt like everything went into HD, you know. And I'm sort of, it's like it is a kind of when you're sort of fight or flight and you're in fight, it's very very rousing.
Go
on.
He said, "Is it like an Agatha Christie plot?"
Yeah, that's quite good.
It's like an Agatha Christie.
It does remind me of the film Brief Encounter, which I watched very recently. That's all very staid. There's one bit where there's a bit where two male friends argue. Oh look, sorry. This is a picture from this is great. This is before Star Wars. I've fallen in love with you. And then she responds with, what does she respond with? I've fallen in love with you. Yes, I know. There we go. Pre-Star Wars.
Excited.
1946. That movie, which and same age as my mum. I think that I don't know if that means my mum is also public domain. Answer me true. Look at the imposing position of him compared to her.
I know.
Answer me truly. Yes. Fascinating. It's a very good film. But there's a bit where him and his friend argue, but you don't realise it's an argument until he says something like, "Are you very angry?" Like that. "Are you very angry with me?" And he says, "Not angry, just disappointed." And it's probably one of the most dramatic scenes in the film, but you don't realise it until it's over.
Wow. It's like they didn't realise World War II was on until 1942. That's how cool and calm English people are. Amazing.
Holding it together. So just before we finish with John's song, Aideen, have you got any stories of when talking to strangers goes wrong?
I think that one that I told you about when I said I love you to a waiter was pretty bad. But my best story ever, and it goes back to that collective release of tension that you have, and it's also on a train, is that I was on the train going to Harrow, and this crazy, he seemed like he had mental health issues, guy came on, and he was like, and he was kind of approaching people, you know, the tension that builds with everybody kind of just folds into themselves when somebody like that comes to the train. And then he just goes, "I don't care, you're all going to hell." And then he gets off the train, or he gets into the next carriage, and quick as a beat, one of the men who looks up and said, "Oh shit, I thought this train was going to Watford." And just the kind of it was like the funniest thing I've heard ever. Hello, Liz.
Hello, Liz. Liz, we're going to dedicate this song to you. John's got a song. What's your song about? It's a love song, isn't it, John?
That's right. It is a love song. Do you like love?
I love. Do
you like songs, Aideen?
I like songs. I love songs.
Okay, so there you go. Something for everyone. Here we go. The classic. Can't believe that it's all over. I just miss you so. Oh. Such a whore. Such a horrible situation. I can't sleep at night. A day drape. The day draped in your arms is like heaven to me. Heaven to me. Seaman looking at you, and now my happiness gone, penis gone. Fuck getting you is the hardest thing that I'll ever do. penis gone. A cum rag, finding out that you were Welsh when you said cum rag was your home. Oh no, it's cum rag, isn't it? And it means the Welsh language, not the country. That doesn't work at the end there. Anyway, there we go.
Jonathan Hearne, everybody! Show your appreciation for his fingering and talents there in the comments. Jonathan, I love that song. It's not the first time I've heard it, but what I will say is I always think of you when I'm face to face with a cum rag.
In Wales.
Only, yes, exactly.
That's quite a lot. He frequently does that. Well,
It's such a beautiful song.
Yeah, and you're such a good singer as well.
You are. You
You're
haven't
such
done.
a
Oh, you did some singing earlier with the phone. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll get a phone call back from him because he'll have a missed call from you. This guy that I wouldn't be able to pick him in a lineup. This Charlie guy.
Well, I'll be ready. You never know what you need to do.
You'll have to record it for the next episode.
I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's been us. We're at 45 minutes, so I think that's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on, Jonathan. You've been a brilliant guest. Aideen, thank you for your wonderful side hosting, expert friendship, everything that you give me in my life. Thank you for being you. I'm feeling loved up since I told that guy that just being his authentic self was what made me love him. I love you all. I love all of you listeners. This is a loved up show. Thank you and good night. See you next week, 8 p.m. every Sunday. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.